Hello and welcome to my latest talk on Roman roads. This time we'll be venturing into Northamptonshire, as well as just outside into the surrounding counties. Of course, Ivan Margry has something to say about the area, but as you can see there are incomplete roads and large gaps. Others have since tried to make sense of it. An early Roman road hunting group, the Viatores, are well known just to the south of Northamptonshire, and just about ventured into the southern part of the county. Unfortunately, what they came up with does not withstand scrutiny, and they don't provide much in the way of valuable new research. Much more useful, though showing that not much more has been found since Ivan Margry's day, is a publication named Mapping Ancient Landscapes in Northamptonshire. One interesting new development is 3 red lines near the top of the map, which are sections of road just to the north of Kettering. Alison Deegan suggests this could be part of a route north from Kettering to Great Casterton in Rutland, and I very much agree with that. It's that possible new western road that we're going to look at first. We're going to start at Great Casterton, just north over the Northamptonshire border into Rutland. Heading south-southwest from the Roman town are 3 possible short sections of road. One of those is a set of side ditches, and the other 2 are sections of road surface, which also appear in part of LiDAR. That leads into Stedfold Lane, a straight road that leads downhill towards the River Chater, but things become less clear after this point. To the west of the River Welland, which is also the border with Northamptonshire, there are several possible routes for the road, none of which are completely convincing. One possible course is shown here, but the road here and to the south is not supported by aerial photographs in places that it really should be. This is one of those places, just to the south of Geeston, where a prehistoric landscape with Bronze Age barrows and Iron Age enclosures, ditches and pit alignments appear very clearly, but with no sign of a road. Now we cross the border into Northamptonshire, and the obvious target for a Roman road heading south from Great Casterton is at Laxton, where a substantial Roman industrial settlement has been found nestled between 2 streams, where a number of kilns for ironworking have been found. There is a possible route from the north, but it does need to be confirmed, as the form on the LiDAR is not completely convincing. What is convincing is the already well-known Roman road number 571, heading into the settlement at Laxton from Warton Newton to the east. Here we have the classic alternating sections of agger and cut that you would expect from a Roman road. What is also convincing is the route south from the settlement at Laxton, not because of the long section of field boundary you see here, but because of what is on the same alignment further to the south, which is this. A lovely long section of Roman road, including a well-preserved section in Ferrell's Wood, which contains both an agger and a cut. This is a new discovery as far as I know. Now we are heading for the heavily damaged industrial area on the east side of Corby, but before we get there, there are further sides of the road making a turn to the south before it disappears. The northern section marked in magenta shows the side ditches on Bing imagery. The southern section is an excavation of the road and a narrower side road that appears on Google Earth historical imagery from 2021. This excavation was carried out by Oxford Archaeology, who found Iron Age settlement and the side road heading towards a Roman villa. Even among the destruction of Corby, there are signs of Roman life. A Roman villa was excavated in the 18th century at Little Weldon, and there has been evidence of Roman occupation found where the road crosses Willow Brook. Outside the area of destruction, the road once again appears on Google Earth imagery. The road then descends into the valley of Harper's Brook, through an area now thoroughly destroyed by modern industry. Here it meets Roman Road 57A, which heads west to Leicester and east to Thrapston. Of course, at a river crossing as well as a crossroads, there must be Roman settlement, and there is. The settlement, which includes what is described as a villa, is spread across a wide area, with the majority of the finds in the relatively undamaged area to the west of the road and south of the brook. I'm not convinced by the interpretation of a villa, as what was found can easily be interpreted as buildings in a roadside settlement. The buildings were found just to the north of the brook, along with a small part of the Roman road we have been following. Heading southwest from the settlement at Stanion is a lovely long section of Roman road heading through Geddington Chase, with various sections of cut and agger. The road then descends into the valley of the River Ice. Of course, where a road crosses a river, we get another settlement. Similar to Laxton, though not as large, 10 ironworking kilns were found here. Then there is more damaged ground due to extraction. In the eye of that storm, the Roman road was found crossing through some Iron Age settlement. The plan shown was of poor quality, so placing the course of the road here was difficult. The course shown here is not exact. We then arrive at a major Roman period settlement at Kettering. The position of this settlement is confusing. Between the Slade Brook and River Ice, at the head of a stream named Beck Gutter, the settlement doesn't seem to have a natural stopping point for a road that is generally understood to continue to Irchester to the southeast. Small sections of road have been found, with an alignment of north-northwest to south-southeast, which suggests that the road we've been following is not the main road through the settlement, instead either stopping or crossing through the settlement. To the northwest, a potential destination is the settlement at Medbourne, though I can see no sign of such a road, or turning to the west to somewhere like Tripontium, where there are slight signs of a route. To the southeast, it obviously heads in the direction of Irchester, but a road to the southwest may head to the settlement at Duston. A viable route in that direction does exist, though it strikes me as more medieval than Roman, so I won't discuss it further here. Another thing that doesn't make a lot of sense is that if this were a road through to Irchester, why would there be a crossing of the River Ice at Geddington, only to have to cross it again to head to Irchester? Indeed, there is a possible route to the east of the River Ice, which I've marked on the LiDAR, but that hasn't been confirmed. Whatever roads did lead here, it is going to be something more than just a through road to Irchester. There is more to be found. Talking of Irchester, there is little to see between Kettering and Irchester, as it's all been trashed by extraction. Irchester itself has been extensively studied, with geophysics showing that the road passes to the east of the earthwork defences rather than going through it, which is something you often see at military sites. There is sign of an older military camp within Irchester, but the currently visible defences are of course later. To the north of Irchester, the road crosses the River Nene, and has been found just to the north of that. To the south of Irchester, the road turns to the east slightly, away from its expected course towards Olney. There is also another road heading east, but we'll talk about that later on. South of Irchester, the route is not at all clear. One possibility is just to the south of the modern town of Irchester, where excavation ahead of house building revealed something that looks like a Roman road, but as it's very recent, the excavation report is not yet available to check if that is indeed the case. It's quite a distance before we see the road again. Here we are just to the south of Bozat, and at least we are treated to a decent section of the road as we head towards the settlement at Olney, straddling the border between Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire. This is a new discovery as far as I'm aware. Now firmly in Buckinghamshire, the settlement at Olney is huge. As well as the part of the settlement visible in fields to the north of Olney, it probably also extends to the south along the banks of the River Great Ouse. The reason I think it is that large is because I think the crossing of the River Great Ouse is to the south. As well as settlement at the crossing point itself, the road can be seen further to the south with a Roman villa in a double-ditched enclosure just to the west of it. There is also another newly discovered Roman road heading to the crossing point from the east, but more on that later. Further to the south, the road appears on some aerial photographs north of Sherrington, before things get a lot less clear. Lacking anything better, there is a possible rather wiggly and un-Roman route down to the settlement at Milton Keynes on Roman Road 1E, also known as Watling Street. It makes use of an old road that has now been swallowed up by the rapid expansion of Milton Keynes itself, but that's not clearly Roman either. What saves this route is an excavation at Rennie Lodge, which found a small part of the Roman road and associated roadside settlement. There is something more convincingly Roman leading from Milton Keynes that will lead us back up into Northamptonshire. Moving just to the west, there is another modernish road on old maps that has also disappeared under Milton Keynes, which doesn't seem very exciting, but it does get a lot better. If we follow that to the northwest, as we leave Milton Keynes, there is a preserved track amongst medieval ridge and furrow as we approach the river Great Ouse. Just to the east of that track is a site commonly known as Stanton Low Villa, though simply described as a settlement when published in Archaeological Journal Volume 146. Here is a site that originated in the Iron Age, but in the Roman period we have a number of masonry buildings, more than just a simple villa. This settlement extends over the other side of the river at Hill Farm, so exactly what you would expect from a Roman roadside settlement where a road crosses a river. This road does continue in this newly discovered section, and you can see that clearly in Little Linford Wood, but it gets even better than that. Further northwest is a very long section of Roman road visible, with a very well preserved section in Stoke Park Wood, showing sections of agger and cut exactly where you would expect them. And look at the top of the image. That black line is the border with Northamptonshire we are about to cross once more. Now over the border into Northamptonshire, we immediately come across a very complicated site, which is difficult to pick apart. As well as the Roman road, we have bank and ditch enclosures, post-medieval ditches relating to woodland management, modern pipelines and modern trackways. You have to stare at it for a while to pick it apart, but I'll save you the trouble and annotate it for you. As you can see, the Roman road is definitely interacting with this enclosure, but it doesn't particularly look like a Roman enclosure. There's no rounded corners. Just looking at the form of it, I would guess Iron Age, but then why is the Roman road interacting with it? Archaeologically, the enclosure is undated, so as a minimum, I think we can at least say the Romans had some interest in it. Further north, taking care to avoid the modern pipelines, of which there are many, the road continues to the northwest, and across the area there are a large number of substantial bank and ditch systems, of the type you might see in a territorial oppidum, and the Roman road is interacting with these structures in the same way as was seen in my previous videos in Hampshire. This is a very underappreciated site. We then lose the road in the modern conurbation of Northampton, but it's heading in the direction of a Roman period settlement at Duston and a known Roman road, number 17, which is one of Ivan Margary's loose ends, now neatly tied up. It's an odd road though, as it starts and ends on the same Roman road, Watling Street. It's like a detour to take in the possible oppidum site, which is behaviour very familiar to what we have seen in Hampshire. So earlier I talked about a couple of roads in the east of Northamptonshire that I would go back to, and it's time to look at those. Roman Road 570 is well understood, running between Warton Newton and Thrapston, with several sections of modern road following the Roman road, so I wouldn't look at that in any detail. What isn't understood is how this road continues southwest from Thrapston. The assumption is that there is a Roman road from Thrapston to Irchester, but there is little evidence for that. I've seen suggestions that the road goes east of the river, west of the river, both sides of the river, or even starting on one side of the river and ending on another. There is actually nothing that has been found on LiDAR or aerial photography to confirm any of this. What has been found is a small section of road heading east from Irchester on geophysics, and an even smaller section of road with associated settlement on the north side of Rushden. From those small snippets, I would guess that the road is east of the river, as we lack any other evidence. The second road I want to look at is Roman Road 224, which starts over to the east in Cambridgeshire, near the Roman settlement at Wimpole. This is an area where the Viatores covered heavily. The road between Wimpole and Sandy they got wrong. Their road course was actually much further north. What they did get right, with the help of the Ordnance Survey, was the road west of Sandy. A number of aerial photographs confirm this route to the west into Bedfordshire, but then the Viatores stop, having their route join another of their roads that I can't see any sign of. To the west of Bedford, we once more pick up the road and find it has travelled around the bend of the River Great Ouse rather than crossing it. An aerial photograph shows both surface and side ditches. Further to the west, and crossing the border back into the north end of Buckinghamshire, the road appears weakly on the LiDAR, but over long stretches. It heads towards the crossing of the River Great Ouse at Olney that we discussed earlier in this video. So there you go, a few new sections of road to fill in the gaps in Northamptonshire and the surrounding counties. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.